everybody knows, the Krakens is a youth swim team, correct?
Tri-team. Youth tri-team.
And you mentioned Quiet Water Beach. That's a really common place for people to swim for the people who are new to the area. It's Soundside on Pensacola Beach. We typically get in the water right next to Key Sailing. There's a bunch of concrete pavilions, but that's a real good kind of a baseline place to start to swim. Brian Webster, I saw that you did Bruce's Beach.
Bruce's Beach, yeah.
I'm curious why you chose that, and if you could tell us a little bit about how that was.
Yeah, no, I chose it because I live in North Hill, so I can just bike down, get in the water and swim and bike back or run. So it's pretty close where I live. It's pretty calm water, really nice. Obviously, taste of the water isn't like it is in Pensacola Beach because it's a protected cove, but it's definitely very calm and quiet. You just have to stay clear of fishermen if you want to swim right towards the edge of the fishing pier behind it. But I can usually just swim up the channel and back, and there's zero boat traffic. It's really calm. It's kind of easy. Been working on stroke development because I tend to hit easy mode trying to get into a breaststroke instead of doing freestyle. So I need to keep working my freestyle stroke development. So it's a easy place to get in. I can park really close, so I can just walk down. So it's nice. I think it is.
So did you say you swim out to the channel? So are you swimming out?
All right,
to that?
so help me out. Bruce's Beach is, sorry about that. Bruce's Beach, is that where the Pensacola Tri?
I think it's so. I've never done one before, but it's right next to Nick's Boathouse in that little protective cove channel.
Yes. Swimming at Quiet Water, or what you'll also hear called Mommy Beach. If you start on the Fireside, like between the Key Sailing boats and the first pillar, and you swim till you're parallel with the ice machine that is across the street, it's about 200 yards. If you swim to the fourth no wake sign, that's about 400 yards. It's pretty much 411 yards if you swim exactly in a straight line. So it's just a good way to kind of know where you're going. Like some people don't want to use a GPS watch or don't have one. So it's a pretty good measure for out in that area.
Is there a better time to go swim there or anything like that?
So most people, well, at least in my experience, so it's a great area to swim no matter the time because it is a no wake zone. What I will say is the more we get into the summer, any of your high vacation times, you're going to see a lot more of your jet skiers and your parasail boats that are kind of coming either near into that area or coming into that area. And the jet skiers will cross. There's like a little boat launch there and another one that's kind of nearby. So sometimes they don't know the rules to slow down enough. So you have to be really watchful and mindful. So a lot of us will swim right after sunrise, so around 6 o'clock-ish. So anywhere from like 6, 7, 8 seem to be the prime times that a lot of people are kind of going out there and starting their swim. And then the evenings, you'll see quite a few people who swim around 5:30, 6 o'clock in the evening because it gives them a couple of hours before we start getting dark here. But please, 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 and even you guys who have been swimming out there for years and years and years and have like never had it happen to you, please watch for the jet skiers. They are not watching for us. That's definitely why we recommend having the swim buoys and having a buddy out there that's also swimming with you so that you have like higher visibility. Because a lot of times too, remember, these aren't people who ride jet skis as a profession or anything. So they're out there on their vacation, having a good time, and they either don't know the swimmers are in the water, they don't know how to slow down their jet skis, they don't know how to turn their jet skis to avoid us. I've literally just seen jet skiers who like put their hands up and they think it's just going to stop, and they just kind of keep coming right over into what we would consider like our swim lane. So be mindful of that when you're out there, that you've got to be the cautionary one and take care of yourself.
And that goes for not only the jet skiers, but like the people on the pontoon boats or the sailboats, the little Hobie cats and stuff like that. be very mindful of them because they're not particularly watching for anything else. The other thing that we've noticed too is those jet ski places typically close around 6:30 in the evening. So on our long summer days, you have a little bit of light left once they're all closed up, and you don't have to worry about that as much. Who all is using a swim buoy right now? One of these. Well, that's 3 of us. That's
I
almost,
am because Patrick makes me.
Yep. If you don't have one,
I use it because
no, go ahead.
Go ahead,
I use
Valerie.
it because I can also keep my phone and my key in there because it has a dry pouch with it, and then that way I don't have to worry about anybody taking my stuff if by chance. I like mine.
I've just now started putting my glasses in it so that I can see when I get as soon as I get out of the water instead of stumbling blindly back to the car. It actually makes a difference. What happened to our shark?
Oh my gosh, that outfit. I don't know how I wear that thing at TGC because it is 500 degrees with the fan going and the AC going. So I don't know if it's just pure adrenaline or what, but it's freaking hot.
So what kind of questions do you guys have about swimming? I know there's some experienced people here. There's some newbies here. What are your guys' concerns? What's on your mind?
I'm just trying to build up endurance and distance. And I was looking at the training plan from last year, and I don't know what peer repeats are. Because I drive out to Pensacola Beach and do them, but I have no idea what they are.
Okay,
So,
that's a very good question, because that could be easily misinterpreted. Tom, do you want to take this one?
Sure. So you probably saw that on the very first day of Mere Mortals. Am I correct, Brian? Okay. So typically, when things were normal, we had Mere Mortals. The very first session, we'd have it at the Quiet Water Beach boardwalk. And we did that because it allowed us to have the swim right inside that pier there, which is a what did we measure, Teresa? 200 yards? Okay, yeah. So a 200-yard length one way, and the vast majority of it is shallow. So it gave us a chance to have our new swimmers practice swimming, at various distances in a pretty safe environment. And we could actually have people up on the pier watching them and, kind of picking out the folks that might need some additional guidance or, making sure everybody's ready to swim more open water. So that's all the pier repeats meant, was that we were swimming along the pier there at Quiet Water.
So
And that's actually a good place to go if you want to swim without having to worry about jet skiers too.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I chose Bruce's Beach, is because they're not allowed in that little cove area, so I can just go. I was just trying to me, I interpret it as interval training, trying to get more and more distance and building stamina and going further and further without stopping or without hitting a comfort stroke and not going freestyle the whole time.
So that's the second time you've mentioned not doing freestyle the whole time. It's for athletes, it's actually less normal to incorporate breaststroke with freestyle. Typically, we all just swim freestyle. Do you have that's wrong. Were you like a college swimmer or a competitive swimmer?
No, I was in the Navy for 15 years, and I was EOD in dive rating. So we would do 3 and 5 mile open water swims, but it would be breaststroke the entire time. So I do breaststroke, side stroke, and I'm very comfortable for very long distances, but I hit freestyle and somehow I just get winded and I don't think I'm doing it right exactly. So
it's a totally different breathing pattern.
Right.
So yeah, completely different. And even if you did like competitive breaststroke, it is completely different than diver or rescue or like the breaststroke that you're kind of used to, just because yours is made to be efficient to go for a very long time, and normal breaststroke is made to be efficient to go for a very short period of time. So it's usually not like a longevity stroke like you were trained to utilize it. But I did want to mention one of the things that's important to remember in triathlon is that while a lot of us fall into utilizing a freestyle stroke as our primary stroke, forward motion is forward motion in triathlon. So you can't make forward motion while holding onto a kayak or by holding onto a swim support personnel. But as long as you're making forward motion, so if that means you're using freestyle, side stroke, breaststroke, you can, if you want a butterfly out there, more power to you. I am envious of anybody who can do their butterfly properly because I am not one of them. If you're doggy paddling, I mean, anything that is forward motion is forward motion. So it's really important to remember that. The only thing I kind of warn people about is if you see somebody who is breaststroking, that is not the person that you want to pass really close to when you go by them, because taking a breaststroke to the rib cage is not fun.
Or the face.
Yeah, I found that out at Ironman Gulf Coast about the breaststroke when somebody panicked and nailed me right in the ribs. Not fun.
One thing for me, I've participated in several triathlons before, only sprint distances, but I've only done it in lakes. And so one thing I'm hoping to get out of this, I'm new to the Pensacola area, is just the tips and tricks for trying to swim in a larger body of water like the Gulf, safely, but also efficiently with all the waves and different things like that.
So when you're switching from the freshwater to saltwater, you already have a little added buoyancy. So you'll notice that you should float better in the Gulf or in the Sound. Obviously, that's different per person, but that is something that you'll notice. In the races that you've done before, were you wearing a wetsuit? Okay, well, that's good. So typically, the people who, well, I'll speak for myself. If I have the choice of a race and it's between a saltwater swim and a freshwater swim, I absolutely would rather do a freshwater swim. There's less salt all over me at the end of the swim, so there's no chafing issues later in the race. So that's my personal preference. But yeah, we can definitely help you with that. Teresa, are you waving your hands?
Oh no, I was just going to say that the only time that you really like to choose freshwater is if it's a downstream current. I was just picking on you. I think
Well, the other
go
thing,
ahead, Stephen.
The other thing about swimming open water that Terry's gonna have to get used to is signage drainage after you get out, especially when you go on the bike and you're a mile or two into it, and all of a sudden everything drains out of your sinuses, and you're like, oh wow, where did this come from? That's a huge difference. And also the other thing too is learning how to breathe both sides. So you're not breathing into a wave when you're going upwind into to a buoy or something like that. You have to be able to be bilateral while you're swimming.
That's good. I mastered that breathing.
I would say the exact same thing with Dennis. Is it's really funny because and it's so weird because it only happens to me with saltwater of like the horrible sinus drainage, and I don't know if it's just because you often aren't in flat current, and so you've got a lot more like competing to be in your air, so you take in a lot more water at times. But it is like you get into that arrow and all of a sudden your nose just wants to drain. And I know that's really gross and disgusting. Probably won't be the only gross and disgusting thing we talk about. But it's absolutely horrible. But yeah, being a bilateral breather around here, it turns out that races, no matter how much I complain, and most of these people know that I will make my voice very well known to a race director, no matter how much I complain, they won't turn the race route into the direction that I'd prefer to swim or to, go because of current or waves or any of those things. So yeah, sometimes it's good to, it's really important to learn how to bilaterally breathe. But when you're learning to bilaterally breathe, it's also really important to learn how to breathe just to one side as well. Because there have been times that we have literally been out swimming and you've got the waves coming over on your left-hand side. So I, as a bilateral breather, I'm a 1, 2, 3, and I breathe. So on the other third stroke, I'm on the other side. And if I get into that rhythm, I'm going to still, when I face this way on every third breath, I'm not going to be able to breathe. So now I'm holding my breath for 6 breaths, which for me is way too much. So teaching myself also to be comfortable with that continuous breath just to one side and doing that to both sides, and then also being able to switch during a race. So I know it sounds like a whole lot to think about, but when you're out there and you're sitting there staring at a wave every time you try to pick your face up out of the water, you learn really quickly that it's important to be able to get into a rhythm regardless of your breath pattern.
There is also the topic of sea life. You're going to see it, so you have to prepare for it. The chances of interacting in a more direct capacity with that sea life are very, very minimal. But it is fun to see it, and you should prepare yourself mentally for seeing it. I know Teresa and I swam at Park West Sunday and had a shark swim in front of us. I'm blind as a bat, so I didn't see it, but I got to hear about it for a while. So that's a consideration too. That's a very big difference from freshwater to saltwater. One that is pointed out by our family in Michigan who don't understand why we swim in the Gulf and not move up to Lake Michigan with them.
Yeah. And jellyfish. Like I hate them too. I don't want them to touch me. But the bottom line is, if you're ever going to do a Gulf race, if you're ever going to swim in the Gulf, which I highly encourage, like get out there in the open water. But if you're going to do it, you're going to see jellies, whether it's Gulf side, Sound side. Anytime you're encountering saltwater, you have a chance of encountering jellies. It's learning how to dodge them, learning how to sight them, learning how to just take it. It's also learning how your body reacts. So I kind of tell people, like, you don't know what's gonna happen when you get stung by a jellyfish unless you go get stung by a jellyfish. And I don't mean like go out to the beach and like pick them up and rub it all over yourself or anything. But if you're out swimming, you're gonna get hit by one, and paying attention. Do you have a large reaction where you need to make sure that you've got Benadryl or some kind of topical ointment or something at your transition area in order to help with that, and also finding out what's going to help for you. Vinegar does absolutely nothing for me. Nothing. Like I don't know why it even exists. Everybody else is like, oh, vinegar is the greatest thing in the world. It will not help me in a jellyfish sting at all. But making sure that I have Benadryl is going to help me in a jellyfish sting. Knowing knowing the different kinds of jellies, because there's a way that a lot of swimmers handle different jellies. So we have in this area, the primary jellies that you're going to see is the stinging jellies. So They're like that big, and they kind of have like little lion stripes that come out from, they've got a little center point, and then they've got like little brown jelly stripes. And they're going to have really long tentacles. So if you see that guy and you're face to face with him, his tentacles are sitting behind him. And that's what you're going to kind of stroke into. And you're going to feel that all the way down your arms. And then you're going to push him into your leg. And you're going to not feel so incredibly great. It's going to sting. The other ones we have, though, are moon jellies. And moon jellies are about the size of a dinner plate most of the time when they get kind of big. And they've got like 4 little circles on them. And you'll know it when you see them, because you'll be like, oh yeah, it kind of looks like craters on the moon. But those are moon jellies. And what you'll learn in this area to swim is that you can put your hand on the top, not the part where the tentacle is, but the top of the moon jellies, and you can kind of scooch them to the side because they've got very, very short little tentacles on them. So again, doesn't mean that they're not going to sting when you smack into them. And it always seems to me like they flip over and put their tentacles. Moon jellies have it out for me. So you do just, I mean, being mindful and watching for those different sea lives, but they're going to be out there. We've also got sea nettles, which they sting you and you don't even know where they are, why they're there. You're just all of a sudden tingly. It feels like you woke up with pins and needles. So you can't avoid it, but I tell people, because sometimes I have a tendency of, once somebody tells me there's a jellyfish out in the Gulf, I'm like, oh, never mind, not going to go swim today. So make sure that you're aware of what's out there, but you're also not shying away from it. That's a moon jelly. So you can see their little circles. They look like they're on the moon. They're really pretty cool. We also have in this area what I call squishies, which you can't Google squishies and find them, but they're like little balls, and they kind of look like little squished up balloons, and they don't have tentacles. They iridescent though, so if you swim at the right times, you can kind of see them glow and twinkle. But I call them squishies. They're miserable to swim through just because it feels like you're swimming through jello, but they don't have stingers on the outside. They don't have any tentacles on the outside. But sea life is going to be out there. Get used to it. I tell people too that, and Terry, as a lake swimmer, you probably will already be somewhat used to this, but I tell people, when you swim like at Mommy Beach, when you're over there by that 4th sign, put your feet down. You're going to be in the grass. You're going to be in like this muckiness. It's not exactly comfortable. Sometimes you're going to get bit by a fish or chomped by a crab. It happens. But put your feet down, just so that you can get used to like the different textures and things that are out in ocean environments or even lake environments. Because I will never forget, like that was the freakiest thing ever, was our first lake swim. And I went into a lake and it was mucky, and then it had like this long seagrass, and I nearly freaked out just it touching me. I thought it was gonna like take me into the deep and be a creature of the dark kind of thing. There's a whole bunch of jellies. There's still not a squishy jelly on there, but there's a whole bunch.
That's a squishy jelly.
No, that's not a squishy jelly.
All right. We should also preface as you're telling people to go into the shallow area of the sound and put their feet down, to shuffle your feet so you don't take a stingray stinger to the foot, because that's not fun for anybody at any time. Have we completely scared you, Terry, about swimming in salt water yet? Because we can keep going.
No, you got to get out there and see it. It's so amazing, because then you have moments like we swam Mommy Beach. We swam on the sound side at the pavilions on Monday. I'm going to say Monday. Days run together for me right now. And we saw a mommy dolphin and a baby dolphin, and just like knowing that they're out there and seeing them, and nobody else is going to see them because nobody else is out there at 6 a.m. And they're just like right in our space, and just absolutely amazing. So the other things that you see will be well 100% worth a couple of jellyfish stings. I mean, just seeing just the needlefish and the pilotfish, and I mean, we don't have a whole lot of things that are fascinating all the time, but when they come up and when you see them and when you swim over those rays, like they're just absolutely breathtaking and amazing. So I like it because I can see them versus in a lake. I can't see what out there, and then it just my mind goes crazy.
Yeah, no, this is super helpful. I'm glad you actually are talking about it so I can prepare when it happens, and so I'm gonna get out there and it'll be great. So I'm really glad you guys are sharing this.
Yeah, you also never know what you might find out there. I mean, Steven's already talking about his kids finding money, but Patrick and Teresa one year went out to swim in the Gulf, and they found an anchor we had lost the year before that came loose from a buoy.
I think it was 2 years before, and I was the one who lost it. So I was very happy that swimming randomly one afternoon, I looked down and there's a stupid anchor right where I left it.
But there is, and I would encourage you guys as well. So I know, like when we swim Soundside, usually, you know, one of the lengths or one of the loops is really dedicated to like picking up everything that people leave out there. If you see it, pick it up. Then that's one of the great things I actually love about TGC when we're out there and we're on the Gulf side and we're doing kind of our normal is you can go, I can dive down, pick up a beer can and hand it to the kayaker who's right there because we have such awesome water support. So please, you know, if you swim over something that's not supposed to be there, I do encourage everybody, like, pick it up, or if you don't feel comfortable diving down, like some people have ear problems or they're just not comfortable diving down, just tell somebody that it's down there. They'll get one of us to come by and pick it up, because we definitely want to leave our beach and our environment a lot cleaner than when we came. But you'll kind of see that, I love that piece of our community where you see TGCers, you know, on their way back to transition, and they're just dumping all the stuff back up in the trash cans because we can't help what the tourists do. So
I'm going to mute you real quick, Teresa, because I want to talk. One of the things that I did want to share with everybody is a resource that we use pretty frequently to check the water quality of the areas that we swim. It's not usually a big issue unless we're getting a lot of rain, and then some of our swim spots do test poorly for water quality. So the Florida Department of Health has a site where we can actually check our water quality for Quietwater Beach, Casino Beach, Park West, Park East, pretty much everywhere that everybody's swimming except for Bruce's Beach. So unfortunately, they don't monitor that body of water for whatever reason. So I have posted the full link in the chat, and I'm about to share the screen so that you guys can see what it looks like. And we'll take a look at the different water qualities. Right now it's sorted. Oh. Huh. So when I looked at this earlier, we were doing a lot better. So no swimming in Bayou Chico or Bayou Grande. Bayou Tahar was actually had a swim advisory last weekend as well. So this is where we typically go to make sure that the places that we're swimming is safe. And since everybody's kind of swimming on their own right now, I would recommend that you kind of take a look and see what the water's looking like before you jump in. It's better safe than sorry. The worst, well, depending on your health, you could experience a whole selection of illness, none of which is fun. But most of the time, it's just going to be gastrointestinal or sinusy. But this is the place to go to see that information for our local area.
Yeah, I would add that, you know, we've gone weeks with no rain, and then we finally got some. So you're probably going to see a little bit of a spike, particularly in, like, you notice the two sites that are bad are bayous, you know, that are, you know, a tremendous percentage of the water there is watershed from, you know, the land area around it. And so you'll see that when you get a rain after a long dry period.
a lot of our pools are starting to reopen. I know the college pools aren't, but the pool at the YMCA, the community pools are opening. And I highly encourage, so we talk a lot about, you know, utilizing open water, but also utilizing like all forms of water. So going in the pool, if you find something that you're not comfortable with, practicing in the pool. So like bilateral breathing is a great practice in the pool. Getting some of that endurance piece of your stroke is definitely a great thing to do in the pool. Learning how to breaststroke, like a great thing to do in the pool, because you have some comfort, you have some safety. You don't have to worry about like, hey, if I put my feet down, is there going to be a stingray there, or is there going to be a jellyfish or whatever? But what I will say is, don't get so comfortable where you're like, I am just a pool swimmer, and that's the only thing I'm going to swim in. And I'll tell you guys, my first, like, I decided to do my first long swim was the 3 mile bridge swim. It was the last year that they had the duathlon, and I only swam in a pool, like, training for it. So I had run my 5K, and I was jumping in the water, and Tom's backgrounds are cracking me up. And Aquathania. And so I done my 5K, I jumped into the water at the bay. And so we were on the Pensacola side of the 3 mile bridge. And the goal is to then swim to the Gulf Breeze side of the 3 mile bridge. And so we're on the Pensacola side, and I jump in, and I'm super excited because I'm a swimmer at heart. I know how to swim. Swimming doesn't bother me. And that water was dark, and it was murky, and it was wavy, and it was not like the pool. It did not have a line at the bottom of it. People were yelling at me to like go toward the buoy, and I had never done a triathlon and never done open water swimming. Like, this was my first experience, and let me tell you, 3 miles for your first open water swim was not exactly my best idea in the whole world. But people are like pointing me toward buoy. I'm like looking at them going, I have no idea what you're talking about. I hear the guy on the radio. It's me and one other guy. We're the last people to get in the water. And right as I'm getting in, this guy on the radio says, oh, well, I guess we'll see how far she makes it. And I was kind of like, oh, great. And I didn't think like, let's see how far she makes it in the sense of like, maybe she can't swim the whole thing. I thought like I was going to get eaten by the Loch Ness monster out there. I had my first open water panic attack. Got just past, there's like a little wall. And I got just past that little wall and kind of into the open now, where it was the bridge and what I just considered to be like the Atlantic Ocean, because it was just vast amounts of water out there. And I'm just kind of out in the open, and seriously had like my first time of having an open water panic attack and thought I was going to die. My heart was beating out of my chest. I was covered in darkness. And it was really honestly my own fault, because I had never thought maybe I should try open water swimming before I decided to swim for 3 miles in open water. So please, please, please utilize, opportunities to go out and be in open water. But I beg you guys, do it safely. Do it with a buoy, do it with a buddy, have somebody, even if your buddy, Brian, if you're swimming down there in Bruce's Beach and you think, okay, well, I can see the shore, I can stand up, or I'm just staying in the little cove. Even if your buddy's sitting on shore and can have eyes on you, most accidents in triathlon are always going to happen in the water, and it can happen to anybody. The strongest guys out there are the guys who jump in that water, they take one breath and they're choking and they're having a problem. Or they jump in and you just don't realize you're having a bad day and you end up having a panic attack. So really having somebody there to swim beside you, or to be there with you, or to know that you're out there. I know we talk a lot about make a plan, do the plan, tell somebody else the plan. And it's great advice, especially if you're going out swimming, make that swim plan, do your swim plan, and let somebody know.
Hey, I noticed Heidi had shared a link to swim tips. That's I just real quick went and took a peek at it. Didn't have a chance to look at the whole thing, but appreciate you sharing any resources that are helpful there.
Yeah, this is Kim. That's my daughter. I just was watching that last night and found it really, really good. And I can't do it the way they describe it, but it's something for me to ponder, and I probably make all 5 of those mistakes. Right now, I'm trying to improve my swimming technique. So I just found that really useful, and I'm going to keep watching it and trying to do some of the exercises that they suggest. And
Dennis, as a coach, may disagree with me on this one, but I think YouTube is awesome. So I am a visual auditory learner, but I'm also I have to see it and know it repetitively. So when I did have a swim coach, so I utilized one of our sponsors, Try Possibilities, as a swim coach. And when I had Helen, I was like, okay, Helen, you have to tell me it, and then you have to treat me like I have amnesia, and you have to tell me like several times exactly what you're wanting me to do. And so it's one of the reasons I absolutely love utilizing YouTube, is because I can look up a stroke and I can look up like how to do it the right way. And then I can know, and I can watch it over and over and over again and compare myself to what I'm doing when I'm out there. Now, granted, it's really great to have somebody sometimes say, hey, yeah, you know you have a crossover, but this is what your crossover is actually doing, and this is how to fix it, than just knowing it that I might learn on YouTube. But I'm gonna let Dennis talk to it as well.
So
Steven.
yeah, I'm using Dennis's channel.
I know. I did the same thing that Tom did to Kim, and I knew it was wrong.
Anyways, getting feedback on how your stroke looks is important. That what I do in the lab here is video and swimmers while they're in the pool and show them exactly what their stroke looks like. Because going out and swimming and watching a video and then trying to mimic that, your mind thinks you're doing one thing, but you're doing something totally wrong. So we actually use a mirror on the bottom of the pool, so the swimmer can actually get instant feedback while they're swimming. And it's helped tremendously, because they can actually go ahead and make the changes I'm telling them to make. One of the things, you watch something is on video on YouTube, that's great, but your stroke maybe look totally wrong because we're not breathing correctly, we're not anchoring our hands in the water. There's a lot of things that may be going on. Our feet may be dragging the bottom and we're not kicking. So having somebody else take a look at what your stroke looks like is probably the best thing that triathletes can do. Is one of the last things they actually will do is have a coach look at their strokes. They'll go spend $8,000 on a triathlon bike, but they won't spend an hour with a coach to look at their strokes.
And I'll go ahead, Kim. Sorry.
Oh, no, that's okay. I mean, obviously, I'm being coached by Helen and Dom right now too, and Helen does look at my stroke. I mean, I can't see her every time I swim, but I do checkups, if you will, whenever they're group events, and she says, oh, and her face scrunches up and she's like, no, that's not it. Or then she'll say, yeah, that's it, and so I do get that kind of feedback. But like as you're experimenting with it, to have something really become ingrained in your stroke, in your movement, is one thing versus hearing it or someone telling you about it in a moment. It takes a lot of time. I think it's one of the most difficult parts of triathlon, is to figure out how to do a proper swim stroke.
Yeah. And I just want to say, like, so for any of you guys, so I know some of us, like, I identify as a swimmer. So if I had to pick one of the sports, I would identify as a swimmer. And, part of that though is just kind of getting out there and being comfortable in it. But it's also getting to a point where I am willing to ask and say, okay, I'm not just out here to survive, because that's what you'll hear a lot of people at the start of a triathlon say, is like, I just have to survive the swim because I'm a great cyclist or I'm a great runner. So as long as I survive the swim, then I can do the things that I'm good at. But it's really also like Steven said, stepping back and saying, if I spend an hour or two with a coach on my swim stroke, how much better of a cyclist am I actually going to be? So for me, what I noticed was I have a horrible, I do kind of like what Brian does. I go to my comfort place. My primary care physician calls it my lizard brain kicks in. And so I just start this stroke that's just, I can maintain it all day long. It's sometimes not efficient, and it's a really lazy stroke. It's not my best stroke in the world, and I'm not conscious of it. It's just, I'm just doing it because it's just rote memory. but working with a coach and having them say, hey, if you made this little adjustment, that shoulder pain that you're having when you're down on your tri bars in the bike is going to go away. And I was like, whatever, that shoulder pains because I'm not engaging my core, or it's because of this, or it's because of that. And I had like all these other reasons for it. But my bike fit was great. I was engaging my core. I was doing all these right things. And then realized, you know what, hey, if I come out of my comfort zone and I actually fixed what was wrong on my one side on my stroke, I really was getting onto the bike and having a lot less pain, which meant not only was I having less pain on the bike, but I was now experiencing less pain in the run. And the longer races you do, the longer you can make it without experiencing pain, the better off you're going to be, or discomfort. I kind of use the words interchangeably. So the better off you're going to be, the longer that you can not do that. So coming out of the swim and already being in pain because I had a weird stroke that was going on because I wasn't paying attention to it was very problematic. So just being mindful of that. And I agree, Dennis, I keep doing it now because I keep reading it and I can't read it and then say it differently. David, I fully agree. Taking that time to have a coach in a swim and tell you where your body is and what your body needs, because that's another thing too, is it's like a bike fit. Patrick can't take my bike down to track and say, fit me on Teresa's bike, and then hand that bike to me and that bike work for me, right? Like that'll make sense in all of our brains. So it is kind of that same thing. If I watch the video of Michael Phelps swimming and I teach myself to swim exactly like Michael Phelps, it doesn't really matter because it might not be most efficient or effective for me with my goals or my body type or several different factors. So I could actually, kind of have some harm to myself by doing that. And I'm not taking back my watch YouTube videos, because YouTube videos are very helpful, but having that next step of going to a coach and saying, what meets my needs best in doing this is very important.
I have a question. Can that be done over video? Because I recently got a little drone that actually follows me on my swim on my bike.
I'm going to come and swim with you.
So I have it follow me on my swim. I have it follow me on my bike because I've only had a bike for a month and a half. I was worried about the bike.
That is awesome. That's exactly what I need, is to have constantly videoing. And then have Steve telling me what to do in the moment.
No, hold on a second, Steven, because I just want to say, Brian, please post wherever you're swimming with the drone, because all of us just want to come and all we're going to do is backstroke and wave at it. Because that's all I want to do.
Yeah, but I'm just because I was worried about the bike because I identify as a swimmer only because I've done a lot of swimming and running, and the bike was what really concerned me, and I don't like clip-on pedals yet or anything else. So I'm just riding with regular flat pedals, and so I get the little drone to follow me. But it's once again, stroke development is a big piece for me because I know that I hit the comfort zone and I get into a safety stroke that'll let me go for 10 miles, and I really want to get competitive in that the 500-yard and 1,000-yard range in much less than that, and then also with the bike. So I just got the little drone so I could look at it. But I'm comparing against YouTube videos, so maybe I should just start posting them to the site and see what people bash me on and say, you need to work on this and everything else. So,
hey, can you fly a drone in a swimming pool, like an indoor swimming pool?
Yeah, well, I don't know. It stays where I tell it to go at a certain clock position and a certain altitude, and it stays there and just looks at me the whole time.
But the
you would
people
have
who
to,
own the facilities,
Kim,
do they allow that?
No, Kim, you would have to have permission from the facility. No. I can tell you right now, UWF is going to tell you no.
I'm pretty sure the Y will tell you no also.
Do not take Heidi to the pool. Do not give Heidi a drone. And do not swim while Heidi is flying the drone inside the pool.
That's what I was thinking.
So the big thing about when looking at somebody from above is that's just the recovery phase of a swim stroke. So the most important part of the stroke is actually underwater at the start and the finish of the stroke. So being able to see what's going on there is actually more important than seeing what's going on above the water.
Hence the need for a drone at a swimming pool.
So if you had an underwater drone,
Or what about
a submersible?
or what
Right.
about having somebody video you from the side at a swimming pool where you can see half up, half down?
So typically,
that does work.
from a allowing standpoint, UWF does not allow outside coaches to come in anymore. So if you've got somebody that's videoing you from the side or using an underwater camera and videoing your stroke, UWF is probably going to say something to you. I'm not sure about Hunter Pool or Roger Scott. I'd imagine they don't care. Steven?
Hunter, Roger Scott both don't really care, but I think the Downtown Y and, of course, UWF has policies against that because they want their staff to make money.
They have that service available, which is why they don't allow it.
All right.
And,
So
and UWF has always been that way. For 30 years that I know that they've always said, no, you can't coach somebody.
all right. So I have to take a quick nerd detour here. Brian, that drone, is that the Mavic Pro 2?
No, I don't know. I found it on the internet. It's not very big, but it'll go within a foot of the water height and stay there as long as I can keep no waves on it. But I have to go look at the name. Maybe I'll post it, just post pictures, videos. But I just put it on a clock position and an altitude and tell it to follow me, and it stays at that distance, that altitude, and that elevation, and just kind of follows me wherever I go. I have to be careful where I ride on the bike, but yeah, it works.
Yeah, Brian, we're all gonna want you to take a picture of that and post some videos and put it up. And I will say this though, you also mentioned like that kind of that brave statement of, I'm just gonna put my swim video up there and let anybody comment. Okay, let anybody you want comment. However, if you put a swim video up, don't listen to anybody who comments. I don't know the nice way to say that. So, because there's a difference between having somebody who coaches comment and somebody who doesn't coach comment, and just somebody who, like a self-taught swimmer versus a collegiate swimmer versus a swimmer who's adjusting to a body function, like a body form habit. Everybody's going to kind of have their own thing. So like, and that's why you even hear here is my difference as the child of a person in the Navy who learned to swim by being thrown off of a dock, and literally it was go swim back to shore, who self-taught to swim, and who swims primarily, like would rather swim a distance than anything short, and Steven, who coaches swimming, and not only coaches swimming but also coaches swimming for children, which is probably what I need more than anything, is somebody who talks to me like I'm an 8-year-old. Honestly, and I have to recognize that in myself, that probably I would do really well with somebody who talks like, and that's one of the great things, like we mentioned Helen with Try Possibilities, was one of the great things was once she learned to talk to me like she talks to her youngest child, we had a great coaching relationship, because it was literally like that's how I needed her to break things down and how I needed her to say things to me. Now Kim or somebody else who coaches or who trains with them might not need that, but I needed that. So it's very important to kind of figure out that with coaching as well. But I say, put your videos up there for fun and maybe a little bit of feedback. But if you're really looking for, how do I take this next step, or how do I break this down, get with somebody who is certified in swim coaching and can help with those pieces. Because even if they've been coached as a college athlete, their ability to coach may be completely different than a certified coach in swimming.
I also want to point out it's important to go ahead and pick your race so that you can start trying to match your swim conditions for training. So Terry and Brian especially, if you're planning on doing a Santa Rosa Island triathlon in October, that's the course that we swim most weekends when we're in person. If you're planning on doing Pensacola triathlon they swim out at Bruce's Beach. So you don't have to swim in the exact location, but you can at least start setting your swim workouts to be close to what you're going to experience on race day. Like if you chose Gulf Coast Ironman for whatever reason, they swim a half mile out into the Gulf, go over a little bit, and a half a mile back in. You kind of got to get used to that because that's a whole different bag of worms than just swimming along the shore for half a mile or whatever. So those are some considerations to take under consideration as well.
Hey, and I will say one of the things that I love, so Valerie, I'm going to use you as an example because you are awesome at this, is when Valerie's going to swim, she posted on the TGC group or on TGC trains, like we know that she's going to be out there. And one of the great things about that is sometimes you get to swim in a different area or you have a built-in buddy. So I know if Valerie puts out there, she's swimming at 8 o'clock on Thursday, then I know if I can go out there at 8 o'clock on Thursday, I'm not going to be swimming by myself. There's going to be somebody in that same space and time swimming, near where I am or with me. And so making sure, again, that whole kind of buddy system, accountability system of having somebody who's going to go in that area. So if you're training for, like Patrick said, if you're training for Ironman or the 70.3 or the full at this point, if you're swimming straight out, like you're going to go along Pensacola Pier in order to get used to the idea of swimming away from shore, do not do that by yourself. Like, please, 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 please put that out on TGC trains, put that out there, join the TGC group, trains group, put that out there. You're going to go do that swim and you want a buddy to come and swim with you. So that you have somebody who's there in that situation.
Yeah, actually, I'm glad you guys are saying that. So you mentioned, what is it called? Gulf Coast Ironman? Is that what you said? Yeah, because I was looking at that course. I want to do a half Ironman in May 2021, but I was looking at one, if it's still happening there, the Gulf Coast one in I think in November is what it was, and I saw that it went straight out and came back, and so that was one of my questions. Like, that sounds scary to me to do that, and so I mean, not during the race. During the race, it doesn't sound scary because tons of support people, but I mean like training for it. So, is that something you only do once in a while, and do you try and get a bit more people to like a lot more people, or maybe elaborate just a little more on that.
So for that type of a swim, if you're going to be going out into the Gulf, you need to make sure that you have a kayaker with you, like bare minimum. You can have as many people as you want. You need to try to get a kayaker per person if it's a small group, realistically, so that if anything happens, you have something there. Because if you get you and 4 or 5 other people convinced to do it, and you don't have a kayaker, you're going to be 4 people a half a mile away from shore if something goes wrong, and that's a very, very bad situation to be in. So you can do it. You can swim that swim once a week, whatever you need to do to feel comfortable. But God, have a kayaker in every instance of training for it. All right, I'll step off of my soapbox.
No, I'm going to step onto your soapbox real quick, though, because I will say this as well. We have an awesome, awesome group of TGC water support. So Tom has frequently, and I think for years, just been kind of the organizer of our TGC water support. And what I will say is, if you want to do that swim and you want to get comfortable, and let's say you just can't find anybody to kayak for you, email Tom, reach out to him on Facebook, reach out to him through measures to get with our water safety people, because I will tell you, these people are, like, honestly, they could probably kayak down any body of water in any conditions. Like, I would trust them, and I have trust them with my life out there on a swim. Is get one of those kayak supports to go with you. They are always, our kayakers, our paddle boarders, they are always looking for an opportunity to just get out there in the open water, and they don't care what pace you go. Like, they're out having a great time. Like, they are having so much fun, and they know to watch for you. They know what to look for with swimmers. So I highly encourage reach out to anybody in TGC, any of the board members, and just say, hey, I want to swim out because I want to make sure that I'm going to feel safe doing that. I need a kayaker to come with me, and I guarantee you're going to get somebody. I agree with Patrick, don't do it by yourself, and don't do it with just another swimmer. That's definitely a swim that you want to make sure you've got good kayak support for.
And I'll just jump in too and just say that, if in your swim training, if you can get Gulf of Mexico swim training where you get out where it's significantly over your head and get some distance in, you are still getting, 99% of that experience. I'll tell you that the most difficult part of that swim, and I've several people here have done it several times, is, within 200 yards of shore, because that's where, the crowds are and it's rougher. And it becomes, I actually, one year, the conditions were so good and the water was so clear that I caught myself sightseeing because you could see the bottom 50 feet down, and there were fish and all that. And, it was just beautiful out there. But if you can get yourself some open water time, a couple hundred yards from shore, you're getting almost all of what you need, to be able to confidently swim a half mile from shore.
I would agree. Once you can't touch bottom, you can't touch bottom, regardless of how deep it is. Once the bottom's gone, it's gone. So I would say I would second what Tom's saying, is that it's great to have that kind of under your belt, but if you can't get it, just trying to get into that deep area, getting a little bit out past the second sandbar, to have that swim is definitely well worth it. And it is. I will say, I don't know if we did Gulf Coast 2 years or 1 year, but it was before Ironman purchased the race. And I remember our first time swimming out there, and you're just like, okay, I'm going into the deep blue sea, and eventually I'll find whatever this buoy is that they're talking about, and I'll turn around and I'll come back to shore. But it is, Tom, we had beautiful weather that day. A little bit of chop when coming back into shore, but we had beautiful weather when you got out past the breaks, and it was so crystal clear. You could see probably 100 feet at least down the rope, and you could just see everything. And it was just this vast blue. And so it's very distracting to be like, oh, I wonder what's there, and looking around. And so getting that at least feel of what it looks like when the bottom drops out from under you is really helpful.
So I want to backtrack real quick. We talked about TGC trains briefly. For those of you who may not know, TGC Trains is the unofficial meetup group on Facebook. It's a private group. It's a way to encourage members to coordinate their workouts with others, so they're not swimming alone or exercising alone. If you're not a member, it's free to join. It's just a Facebook group. And like Teresa said, people like Val will post when they're going to be in a certain place and what they intend to do. People can choose to meet up or not. But it's a very, very good resource to get involved with, especially if you're in a position that you're swimming by yourself. Even if you are being followed by a drone, it's fine.
Yeah, you
I always put on my location sharing and live tracking at the same time.
Right.
And I say, I'm going down here, I'm turning on live tracking, so if you don't see me moving for a little while, you know something's wrong.
One other thing I did want to say on open water swimming, though, is it's really weird, but also like knowing your nutrition. So whether or not you eat beforehand or you have something ready for you in transition or when you get onto the bike. So it's kind of a little bit different than in the pool. So a lot of us, we swim in the pool and we keep our Gatorade sitting there on the side, right? So swim a couple of lengths and you jump out and you grab your Gatorade and you take a swig and you're good to go. You swim another couple of lengths and you do the same thing. And so then you get to race day and all of a sudden you've got to go, 600, 1,000 yards without having anything to eat or drink. So really knowing your nutrition going in and knowing what your weather conditions are going to be and how that's going to affect your nutrition and your swim. So I am a person who I have to take Dramamine. If it gets to a certain point and I see, you know, we're going to have 3-foot swells, it's time for me to take some Dramamine. Or if I'm having, if I'm planning my race appropriately, I'm doing all my proper hydration, I'm looking at what I'm eating in the morning, and I might say, okay, I'm going to have yogurt instead of having a banana, just because I'm looking at the water, but I'm able to make that change because I've practiced that change. So the swim is not just getting through and surviving the swim, but also what's going to make you feel the best when you get onto that bike and not wear you down. Because if you go in there and you say, you know what, I don't want to get sick to my stomach, so I'm not going to eat anything before I go and swim, then you're going in, you're already behind your nutrition block when you get onto that bike. Like, you're already just trying to pack on calories and you're already behind on the bike. So being able to eat something that also accommodates the conditions that you're coming into is very, very, very important on the swim.
I'm glad you mentioned it, Teresa.
Yeah.
I have a question. So I've been doing these long swims on Sunday, about 3.6 miles. And then, of course, that's not really what Helen and Dom assigned me to do that day. They really want me to do a long run. So
Right.
how do I recover from that long swim so I can do the long run?
Yeah, so your recovery is not going to be really quick. And in fact, so as for me in long swims, one of the things that I really, really focus on is getting my nutrition throughout my swim. So if that means, like, if I have a kayaker with me, that's great. Every 15, 20 minutes, I'm getting my nutrition off of the kayak. I'm doing what they call feedings in my swim, and I'm able to move forward. The other thing, though, is stuffing a goo or chomps or something into my swimsuit so that I have it readily available if I'm doing a long swim like that. And also, again, eating appropriately before, and then knowing what my body needs in order to go into the next event. So if I know, if I get on the bike, I can have a freaking bagel. Like, I'm good because I'm not going to be jostling around for a little while. But if I'm going from swim to run, I can't have a bagel. I'm going to be bouncing myself everywhere and I'm going to make myself sick. So really watching, again, what I can eat, what I can take in, but really staying ahead of my nutrition block. So whether that means, eating something, 30 minutes before I go, and I know all of our moms told us, like, hey, 30 minutes before you go into swim or you'll get cramps. Well, it's 30 minutes to go in before you swim because your body needs to, like, process it and kind of push it down a little bit and not have it sitting really high in your stomach. So you need some digestion time and some time getting that calories into you, and then going for your swim, and burning through those calories that you have. But the biggest thing, and honestly, again, is just preparing for that time frame. So I have to go back and kind of re-prepare. So if I'm only going to be swimming 1,000 yards, for me, I have to think, okay, in 1,000 yards, I would have normally eaten once. So now I can't eat that one time because Patrick's not sitting there with a kayak handing me my, my nutrition bottle. So I know now I can't eat. So how am I going to prepare ahead of my race, or how am I going to prepare when I get on my bike or when I get onto my next event to regain those calories and rehab that nutrition for me? Same thing, the longer distance you look at, and you'll actually see, and the first time I ever saw it really, really happen, we were swimming Augusta, and it was a 70.3. And we were doing Augusta, and I saw this guy, and Augusta's fast usually because it's a downstream current. It's a really fast swim. And I say that normally because I told somebody that one time, and then they were like, it was swimming in a lake and the river wasn't moving anywhere. So it's normally a really fast swim. And I saw this guy literally turn over, and he's taking in a goo in the middle of the swim. And it was really just because that was his nutrition plan, and that was his way of getting it into his body. And making sure that he had the calories to burn for the rest of the swim. So be mindful of that if you're swimming in a pool, you might have your fluid, your hydration, your liquid right there. What are you going to do in open water if you don't have it as readily accessible? And I will say this too, please, 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 please be mindful of our environment. And if you take a goo pack out there, you make sure that you're stuffing it in a part of your bathing suit or your wetsuit or whatever, that it's not going to get out, that you're going to take it out of the race course with you as well. Yeah, and like Patrick said, whatever you train, like it's race day. So train trying to eat different things and seeing what works for you that you can go into the water with. That's why I know, some days I can walk out into the Gulf and I can say, okay, I need to have a yogurt or I need to have a banana, and I know which one's going to be the difference. Or I need, on the ride over there, I need to go ahead and take my Dramamine because I can look at the wind and tell which way it's going to go, and it's going to not be a really good day if I don't have my Dramamine. I would also say ginger. If you are a sick to your stomach person, ginger is your best friend in the entire world. And again, not everything that works for me works for everybody, but I love ginger candies. So you'll see me pop them before races. They help to calm my stomach. They help to calm my nerves. They're just kind of like an all-encompassing thing for me. And this is coming from somebody who literally spent 7 miles of a 9-mile swim throwing up. So ginger candy is awesome. And I told
Oops, Tracy got on mute.
Yeah, Patrick keeps muting me.
Sorry, I thought you were at a stopping point. I just wanted to pop in and mention that we are 20 minutes past when we scheduled to stop this. That's not a problem for me. So if you need to go, go. But I also wanted to just kind of point out we intended to talk about places to swim. We touched on nutrition. We touched on safety with the kayak. If you guys have questions or anything else that you want to bring up, please do. And we'd be happy to address anything that you're curious about, little or big. That's what we're here for. But okay, Teresa, if you have more to say, type up.
I'll wait for questions, or if everybody wants to go to bed, I understand.
Nothing.
Well, thank you all. This was really great.
Well, good. I'm glad you enjoyed it. You missed the mixed drink portion. I'm on my third, and I'm only slightly slurring. So, good night.
Yeah, those are heavy drinks. I do want to say, can I just say one more thing? I know I talk a lot, especially when it's swimming. When you guys talk about running, I'm going to sit in the background and not say anything except for make mean faces, because I do not identify as a runner at all. But the other thing that I did want to mention on swimming is swimming's a great recovery sport. So a lot of people look at the swim and they just say, okay, I swim so that I can survive the first event so that I can get on my bike or I can go run. But swimming really is a great event for those recovery times. And those recovery times also when your body just needs a break. When your body is telling you, hey, running hurts or this doesn't feel comfortable, swimming's a great time to keep up that endurance, to keep up that that activity level. And it amazes me sometimes that people will say, I didn't think I was doing a whole lot with swimming, and then I swam an extra 100, or I did this extra thing in my swim and I realized how hard I was working. Because swimming can be that really great workout, but it's not using those same muscle groups that you use on the bike or the run. It's using your upper body a lot more, your core a lot more, and kind of giving your legs that break that it needs. So I utilize swimming, I utilize water sports, whether it's aqua jogging or just, casual swimming, as a great opportunity to kind of leave my phone on shore and have that decompression time, but also have that time where my body can kind of heal and not feel all of that just kind of pounding that it gets with other sports.
Thank you.
Oh, Steve, do you have anything to add?
No, just saying thank you. I appreciate the help and the insight.
Well, that's what we're here for. And we'll build on this throughout the whole season. Typically, when we're meeting in person, we have a dedicated swim clinic day. I don't know when that day is going to happen this season, but once we get back in person, there will be a swim day. That's one of the biggest things that we do during the Memorials. Teresa?
Hey, I just want to say one more thing, that during that swim clinic, Brian,
Break the drum.
I know, no, that's not what I was going to say. But during that
Yeah.
swim clinic day, you are with me on sighting because you're going to teach everybody how to breaststroke. Because you're going to be like our professional on the breaststroke now.
Yes. Thank you.
Completely meant as a compliment.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thanks.
All right, Terry, anything from you? Okay. Anybody else?
I got one. I'll just, I want to encourage everybody. We've done this a number of years. We've met a lot of people over those years. And as Teresa mentioned, I've always been real involved in the water safety. And so as we get new kayakers on the crew, inevitably they tend to focus on the people at the back of the pack. So they see this old guy coming up real slow, and they tend to gravitate towards him. And I tell them, don't worry, that's Jack, and he's not fast, but he can swim all day long. And we lost him a few days ago. And I just want to encourage everybody to be more like Jack. He enjoyed the sport, and he really got joy out of what he was doing, and he didn't care how fast he was. So that's my parting advice.
Thanks, Tom. Good advice.
The swim can be a lot of fun. Don't let it scare you so much that you're petrified to do it. I personally used to hate swimming, and because my wife likes that the best, we do it a lot. And I've gotten to where I like that. It's my second favorite one, but it's at least second. Still hate the bike, but all you gotta do is keep doing it, and it eventually gets better. So I would suggest if you're nervous in the water, or not being nervous in the water, be completely aware of your abilities, but be able to embrace being out there and seeing the beautiful Gulf. I mean, we're so fortunate to live out here and be able to swim out there. Just get out there and do it, and before you know it, you're going to like it too. I guarantee it. So anybody have anything? All right, well, I'm inclined to say goodnight. If you do come up with questions later, reach out via Facebook, the Memorials group, or the website, and one of us will answer it. I guarantee it.
Bye.
Thank
Good
you.
night, everybody.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Good night.
Good night.
Patrick's going to put my